So I am in town right now over at my friend Ashley's powder coat shop, Ameris Powder Coating, and am picking up the work faces for the Century. So finally we got those powder coated, clear went on them today. I just put the mirrors on the OBS and swung into town for a coffee. And yeah, she's doing the last coat of clear, but just checking on where they're at right now. So my friend Ashley dropped the work VSX9 faces off. She finished up the powder coat and clear today, and they are awesome. I'm so happy with it. So the major piece of the puzzle is done. I'm just waiting on the lips. Like I said before, they're supposed to be here Tuesday, so I've got my fingers crossed that FedEx comes through and I get the lips Tuesday. I'm going to clean up the barrels tomorrow. The barrels still have quite a bit of the factory sealant on them, so I'm going to get those cleaned up tomorrow and have them prepped and ready to go. So when the lips come in, I can assemble everything and get tires mounted and then test fit on the Century. I can't wait to put these wheels on the car. Like I said before, with the new lips coming, I've gone a ½ inch wider front and rear, so they're a deeper lip. And they'll look like a brand new wheel, obviously, when they're done. So the lips for the work wheels have just showed up, and I haven't even opened the box yet. Going to polish the bolts and get the lips out, make sure that's all good to go. Gonna go pick up some sealant, get them sealed as soon as possible. So by tomorrow, it's set up and I can mount tires. Then I can do some final test fits on the car to then know where I need to critique the suspension. So I might be in for a ton of suspension work on that car in order to lay it out on 18s. We leave in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today, we are leaving. And it doesn't seem like enough time. There's so much stuff going on. I put this own stress on myself. All of this stuff isn't necessary, really. It's stuff I like to do, and it's stuff that my business is basically involved in. So although I may complain on Instagram or to my friends or whatever that this is all the weight is unbearable sometimes. It's all weight that I put on myself, and I understand that. But you're allowed to complain. You're totally allowed to complain about your workload, even if you've put that workload on yourself. I've also been working on a huge keyring job in my night laser shop for Tommy F. Yeah, he's I'd say somewhat local. He's a guy in Connecticut. You know, I'm in New Hampshire, but he just gave away an LS powered Colorado, pretty sweet looking truck. And he did a product giveaway, obviously, for that truck. And I'm in the middle of making a ton of tactical style key rings, genuine black leather, gold rivets. I hand wash, hand buff, hand assemble all of these key rings. And we are doing a ton of them. This is only about a third of the amount that I'm doing. But this is my business. This is my day-to-day business, is night laser. And yeah, super grateful for that work, but with only 2 weeks to go with prep work, this was a massive job. So I've been working nights. On top of that, my laser machine glass on my door fell right out the other day, and I have been in the process of cleaning all the glass up. And I am so thankful that I ran my gantry all the way to the back the night before this thing fell, so the glass didn't fall onto my laser head and gantry. But I've got a full 5-gallon pail. Well, the wide angle lens, it doesn't look full, but it's halfway full. So I'm gonna start working on polishing the bolts. All of them came apart well too, which is great. I didn't have any that snapped or anything when I took them all apart. They're a 1997 set of wheels, and they had never been taken apart before. So you never know when you're gonna have some bolts that are seized right up and snap right off. So I got the wheels all assembled last night. I didn't take the time to seal them last night, which I definitely should have, but I was assembling them upstairs in my living room, so I didn't really want to get into the ceiling, and possibly make a mess in my living room. So I'm downstairs in my laser shop now, and yeah, gonna seal them, hopefully get them set up as soon as possible so I can get tires mounted, and then we can move on to test fitting them on the car finally. Yeah, I'm excited to get these on the car. So this morning I am working on installing the OEM Toyota Century double din head unit that I found in Japan. The car did not have it when I bought the car, and I was really worried about not being able to find one in Japan since it's a Toyota Century specific head unit, and was able to find one and had it shipped. Just getting that in first, then I'm going to get it in the shop, get it up on the lift, and I'm going to start on the trunk setup and try to get an idea as to where I want everything in the trunk for a finalized location. Such a cool unit. It's not perfect. I mean, there's a scrape on this button here, but for such a rare car, finding a Century specific head unit, I was just happy about that. Well, it's in, and it's honestly made all the difference in the world. I mean, for my entire ownership of this car, I was staring at a gaping hole right here, and it just looked like someone had stolen the radio out of the thing. And so the interior up front here just looked completely incomplete, I guess you could say. Up front's looking pretty good, I think. All right, guys. So if you follow me on Instagram, you've already seen this, and you've already seen my initial excitement about this. But some of you may know that there's a VCR in the backseat of the long wheelbase Century. Not just the long wheelbase VH45, but the stretch long wheelbase version, this one. And in mine, the VCR door is open, and there's a VHS tape stuck in there. It's been like that since I bought the car. I never even really noticed it or brought it up before I purchased the car and left Seattle with it, so I never got a chance to talk to the previous owner about it. More than likely, I assumed, it was a VHS tape that had been in there since Japan, because the car had only been in America for a couple of years, and the previous owner just kind of drove it around to some Cars and Coffees and never did anything with it. So getting that tape out was kind of on the back burner for me. At some point, I wanted to get it out. And I say that because the power button doesn't work on the TV, or there's no power to the TV, so the eject button isn't working. And it's quite involved to get inside that whole center of the car where like the ice maker is, where all the HVAC stuff is, all the partition window, all the motors for the curtains and the power window, and there's just a lot of stuff in the middle of that car. So I haven't taken any of that apart to get the TV working or to figure out why the TV doesn't work, which is something I definitely want to do because I want all that stuff working. But as I'm getting the car prepped for Ocean City, I wanted to get that tape out of there and try to get that door closed on the VCR, so it just looked a little bit more finished, in there for photos and for videos for the podcast and whatnot. So I got in there with a bunch of small little plastic spades and was able to get it out. A lot of you on Instagram and just friends of mine had asked, inquired about that basically, and said, like, I wonder what's in there. If it's Japanese, do you think it's like anime? Do you think it's automotive related? Do you think it's some sort of like business, training tape or something ridiculous? Who knows what was in there? Well, again, many of you know that I'm a film nerd, and I collect not only movies, but I collect VHS tapes, like VHS movies. The VHS tape that was in that VCR is one of my favorite films. And although the Instagram story I posted about this was my initial awestruck reaction, I'm equally as excited filming it now for YouTube as I was 10 minutes ago with my phone, because I still can't believe it. It's a Japanese version of one of my favorite films. Not just a film that I enjoy. Like, if you know me well enough, you know I quote this film. I quote this film. And it's got two of my favorite actors in it. And it's in... So I take these things as like a sign. I was planning on possibly selling this car this fall. I got a few people that are like seriously interested in the car, and I've been seriously considering it. And I pull out a jammed VHS tape that was in the VCR, and it's one of my favorite films. And so now it's like, now what do I do? It's got to be a sign. So here we are. You can't write this stuff, by the way. I can't even believe this. 1997, The Fifth Element. Bruce Willis, Gary Oldman, Mila Jovovich, Ian Holm, Chris Tucker. Japanese version of The Fifth Element. I can't, no way. So what I'm excited to do now is put that in my VCR at my house and see if it's a Japanese dubbed over version of The Fifth Element, which would be really cool. But guys, you can't write stuff like that. Blown away. I'm at a loss for words. I mean, I'd honestly say easily top 10 favorite film. That's the coolest thing. I've been under a ton of stress and a lot of pressure to get a lot of the things that I want to get done for Ocean City and Riverside. Things that I need to get done too. Mechanically for the truck, and aesthetic things for the car, and you know, stuff that I want to do. But I've been stressed out. I feel like there's not enough time. I shouldn't even really be taking the time to film this. I need to be working on the car. But that has just, it's like relieved a lot of the stress, because I'm focusing on how insane it is that somebody in Japan, more than likely the person who owned this car, was watching The Fifth Element in Japan. The car travels to America. You know, the guy who imports it just drives it around, doesn't really do too much to it, sells it to me. I fly to Seattle, I purchase it, I drive it 3,200 miles across America from Seattle, Washington, all the way to New Hampshire on the East Coast. And The Fifth Element is one of my favorite films, and that's what's in the car. So nuts. So that was really, really cool. And my phone beeping off right now is people responding to the story about this that I just posted. Yeah. Pretty wild. Pretty crazy. Yep. This morning I'm working on the Governors Club and Ocean City, Maryland key rings. I've been trying to squeeze that in whenever I can, kind of keep chiseling away at all those. My friend Rob Mersaldi from Dent Patrol is on his way here this morning to take a look at the Century and take care of a few little dings that are throughout that car. It's such a long car, and it's got really long straight panels, so any little ding is super noticeable, and the car's black. So super thankful that he was able to come up here this week. It's all last second. I kind of had him on the back burner, and yeah, decided to have him come up and take a look at the car. So super excited to have him come up here and work some of his magic on the car. He does great PDR work, paintless dent removal work. Check him out on Instagram at Dent Patrol. And he works in the New Hampshire, New England area. But excited to see him. He's a car guy too. That's how I know him, through like the Volkswagen scene up here in New Hampshire. So my friend Rob is here from Dent Patrol. Gonna work his magic on the Century. This side's definitely the worst. Got into something on this side at some point, which took this molding off, and yeah, put a pretty decent dent in this door and a few up in the front door. So this door here was the worst of it. It had a little bit of like a side swipe here, and there was a pretty big dent vertical and lengthwise horizontally across the door. And this was the worst panel by far on the whole car. And this side is just incredible. I should have gotten some before and after photos. Yeah, this looks incredible in comparison. From this body line up, there were a handful in here as well that he was able to get out. And this is the one window on the whole car that doesn't work. And so in order for him to gain access, I ended up pulling the whole door card itself, which is kind of like a 3-part door card. Luckily, no one had bit into this door card ever before, so all the hardware was where it was supposed to be. All the tabs were still together. There were no broken tabs. I was able to get everything off without breaking anything. All right, guys, so I've done so much since the last clip, and I honestly haven't taken the time to film anything because time has gotten so tight, and I've kind of kept up to date or up to speed with Instagram, just because it's super easy to just take a couple Instagram stories and kind of commentate. So if you follow me on Instagram, you kind of know where I'm at this moment. I've been dealing with a bunch of issues on my truck. I thought I was going to be able to just bypass the seized turbo with the exhaust, and then I realized that whole turbo and manifold had to come out to get to the rear glow plugs, because I had to do new glow plugs in the truck. And then once I got everything off to get to the turbo, like the air box and a bunch of lines to get to the turbo, which is like basically shoved underneath the rain tray up against the firewall, I realized that it was pulling a bunch of dirty, unfiltered air now that the exhaust was cut off, and there were some bad, like dry rotted lines and stuff. And so I pulled the whole turbo off and then had to go source an NA73 air box and catch can for the back of the manifold, intake manifold. And so that took like 2 full days to like find one of those, pull it off a junk truck, a bunch of parts. So everything was ventilated and plugged properly. So I did all that, did all 8 glow plugs on the truck, did a glow plug relay solenoid, and then had a ground issue with that. I've been working on the Century too. I've got the wheels on the Century and under the Century. The rears didn't go without a fight. I had to do a bunch of maneuvering underneath the car, some body work, lots of inner fender work. Luckily, I built an adjustable panhard bar in the back, so I was able to like dial the rear in. I've been stressed on that. That's been taking a lot of time. As we speak, you can see probably the front end of the Century from here. I just buffed and detailed the whole car. I knew that was going to take some time, but I really wanted to do it because I hadn't done that yet since I bought the car. So as it sits here, the car looks phenomenal. It looks so good in comparison to what it has ever when I've owned the car. It is 10:30 at night, Saturday night, and I still have I'm still going to try to put in like 2 hours of work in my laser shop, in the night laser shop, because I still have to finish the Ocean City TGC key rings. I'm making 150. I still have to laser cut more and then buff them, wash them, dry them, glue them, assemble them. I still want to make some rearview mirror hangers for the show in Riverside, or in Chattanooga at Riverside. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to do. So I apologize that I've skipped a whole lot of the prep process, but it was necessary. I haven't had an opportunity to have the time to basically film everything.